So hi again, hi everyone, and okay, welcome to your. I think this is the second round of your MBA, and I think it's a fourth semester that you guys are starting, if I'm not wrong. So now, just to give a, I think thank you, Dr. Sheenu, for going ahead and introducing me, and so you have covered most of it. I will not spend much time on my introduction. See, just to set the few ground rules, let's go ahead and have it an interactive session rather than a death by PPT. So I will go ahead and ask you a couple of questions. There is nothing right or wrong. Whatever you guys feel like, answer it, and then we will learn. And in 1 hour, whatever I can finish, will finish. Design thinking by itself is a domain. And when design thinking comes with data science and AI or machine learning, it becomes very powerful. Now, let me ask you the question, or rather, let me tell you that let's say, do you have done your MBA and you go ahead and go back to your organization, or probably you get a better job from what you are right now, which I'm sure you will, after, because it's a very comprehensive course that I saw. So once you do that, what happens is that you get a project wherever you are, and you have done everything. Probably you also develop a very good model, and boom, the project fails. So my question to all of you is, let's hear from you. Why do AI project fails? I mean, anybody can answer. I'll take a stop here. Anybody can answer and let me.
Okay. So I feel that the AI projects may fail if we are not able to define the business problem very clearly.
Fantastic. Very good. So that's definitely one of the points, and very good for coming up. See, let me go back to one of the. Okay. See, so let me quickly switch screen and let me give you. There are. See, this is the paper, or that this is a scribble that I was doing in 2007 or 8. I mean, by the color of the sheet, you can see that it's pretty old. So there are various reasons, and 18 top reasons over here. So first reason is, not all problems are AI problems. So what does that mean? That AI isn't a solution to all the problems that the business has, or all the use case might not be an AI use case. And even if it's an AI use case, it might not be even rather, if it's a technology use case, let me put it in this way, it might not be even an AI use case. It can be a data science use case, it can be analytics use case, it can be a just visualization use case. Okay. So that's there are various reasons of AI, but project failing, and one of the major reason, I think Somadi was rightly answered, and another major reason is that not all problems are AI problems. So what does it? What happens when an AI project fails? So probably somebody has to take the fall. Somebody will get pointed out and say that, hey, probably because of either somebody or something. So will be pointed out that this is the reason the AI project failed, and probably we have to go ahead and do retrospective and all those things, why it failed, and what could have been done better, what went wrong, this, that, and all. Now, see, when I speak with this CXOs, and especially the product owners, and especially people who are stakeholders who are actually paying for the project, they really doesn't matter for them what kind of algorithm you are building. Either it's a reinforcement learning, it's unsupervised learning, or is it it's a regression, it's a classification, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter to them. What matters to them is, as Somodip rightly said, is it solving my business problem? Okay, and the money that I'm paying for, is it fruitful, and are my end users being served when I develop a model, when I deploy it, or probably when I do a EDA? What kind of recommendation are you giving? It doesn't matter to them what model you build. So this is first thing you need to understand. And just to come to to sync with design thinking, instead of doing retro why it failed and what could have been done better, why not do a design thinking? Now, what is this design thinking? This is a this is not something where you go ahead and design your algorithm and find it. Rather, design thinking is a iterative process, and it will help you to understand your users better. See, when I am developing a AI ML model, or when I developing a, let's say, a product itself, whom I am developing it for? So that's the main question. It will help you to discover that. And as you see at the bottom of the screen, that basic design thinking processes are empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. Now this is basic design thinking process. And what are other things that design thinking can do? It also it challenges assumption. It redefines the problem. So when a problem comes, it helps you to think and redefine the problem from a user's perspective. Now, this is very important, because until unless you solve the user's problem, you are your products or your model still fails. And that's one of the main reason the AI project fails, because we jump to modeling. One of the reason we jump to modeling, we probably do not understand what is the problem statement. So here in this design thinking session, what I will give you is a quick anecdote to go ahead and use this design thinking process for your problem statements, and how to go ahead and go till a POC phase. So just to move on, see, this all design thing also will help you to identify if there are other solutions and alternative strategy. I was taking the CMMI training last week, and one of the requirement of CMMI V3 or version 3 is that there should be an alternative design plan or alternative solution if your primary solution fails. So by doing this design thinking, you will be able to go ahead and identify those. Okay. So just one last thing is, it provides a solution-based approach to solve a problem. So that's the main thing about design thinking, that it's giving you, it's the end goal of design thinking is a solution. It comes up with a very good solution after design thinking, which uh, takes care of all the uncertainties in your project. I think Krishna was covering this uncertainty. So it takes care of all the uncertainties, all the assumptions in a project, and develops a very good. Now, these can it be done by project management? Well, yes, but this is mostly focusing on the solutioning part of it. Okay, and a problem statement, solutioning, and response. So to go to the next slide, I will tell you that this is, as I was talking about the previous slide, that this is the main design thinking one-on-one. What is this? Empathize with the client. Okay, or empathize with the person or the users. You empathize them. So now I'll tell you what is this empathize. So before I tell you what is empathize, can anybody identify which on the left hand side is it empathize, or on the right hand side is it empathize? But just by looking into the picture, anybody can Offline, online, anybody, and take a stab at it.
Right.
Right one is empathize. Good. So yes, as so sympathy is just feeling bad about people. Can I do something about it? Is when empathy comes into play. It, as it says, that it goes beyond feeling and compassion. So I'll just go back to this slide once again. So that's where empathizing and understanding the client's problem is very important. Then what do? You go ahead and you define what are you defining is probably the problem statement. You combine all the research and where the user problem exists, you understand that, then you probably ideate, then you prototype, then you test and implement. Now this is a very I would say a basic one-on-one design thinking. And now, let me ask you another question. How long do you think an AI project lasts? Now, this is very important to understand, because this is where design thinking for AI will be different from design thinking for a solution which we are developing for, let's say, a healthcare system, a retail system, basic solution, which has nothing to do with AI. So anybody can take a stab at it and give me an answer. How long do you think an AI project lasts? So there is no right or wrong. You guys can.
I guess 6 months to 1 year, because new trends come in and the model needs to be upgraded.
Fantastic. Yes, and that's right. So max 3 to 6 months. The max project length would be 3 to 6 months. When it goes beyond that, your model starts drifting. You probably have to do a drift analysis and rebuild, redevelop your model. So this is what when you develop, or when you are talking to leadership and trying to pitch them an AI solution, you should tell them that, hey, this is not a end of, like, you build once and you forget about it. No, AI ML doesn't work. Data science probably work, because that's where you need to understand and differentiate between a data science problem, analytics problem, AI problem, and a machine learning problem. So depending on that, you need to understand. However, typically 3 to 6 months is where a machine learning and AI problem last. I'll give you an example here. See, what happens is, let's say I have built a movie recommendation system. I think that Krishna was talking about a movie recommendation system which recommends me a movie. Now, let's say my usually I like watching these action movies. Now suddenly I with the age, I tend to move towards my different flavor of movies. Probably when I grow old, I don't want to see too much of action on the. I want to see melodrama. So now, let's say I am at the age of 45, and after 6 months, I'm going to become like 46, and that transition. So that transition, when it happens, the model starts drifting. The model starts recommending still an action movie, but I really do not want to go ahead and see. So this is kind of example. There are other example also, that user behavior changes. Like example of COVID, we no longer go ahead and buy stuffs. I'll not say no longer. We are still going out, but we usually do not go out until it's very necessary to buy stuff. We buy it online. So that's a pattern change that happens. And then when the model starts drifting. So let me ask you this as well. Can I empathize? How can I empathize when, in an AI project? See, so 80% of the time you will not get time to empathize, because the problem is your AI project comes as an RFP. Now, here is the difference between full design thinking that I showed you versus AI design thinking, which just comes in an RFP, and what you are required or you are expected that you know the problem and you give a quick solution, because that's how for so many years the software development has been, that you come up with a solution and we give you you come up with a problem and we give you a solution. So that's the real world scenario. We can talk about, hey, I want to empathize with the client and I understand his problem. Well, let me tell you that 80% of the time you will not get it. Now if you're developing a product which you have to do a lot of research on, and then probably the entire life cycle of design thinking will come into picture, and where you get to empathize with the client and do all those things. So moving on, so what can we do now? So we can't empathize with the client, and Indrajit, you said that, so can we not apply design thinking? Well, we can still apply design thinking, because you have to design how users think. That's how you have to design a solution. So instead of giving what I want to develop or what the project team wants to develop, here you are designing a solution for the users. So users are your first persona. So now from the bigger design thinking, let me break it down and give you a three-pronged approach to design thinking for AI, which is, set the goal, understand the problem, response. Now, this is something that we usually do when it comes to RFP. And there are various tools on the right hand side, left hand side, top. There are various design thinking tools that can be used to go ahead and come up with a I'd say prototype. I'm sticking to prototype right now, or a response rather. Let me put it in this way: response can be three types again. It can be a prototype, it can be a POC, it can be a MVP. I will come to that in a little late, and when and how it is applicable. So let me move on. What is the first thing that you need to do? You get a problem statement. The first thing is to think from a business perspective. Okay, because when you think from a business perspective, you are actually answering or you are saying that, hey, the solution that I develop will serve my business or will serve the business problem that you have. So hey, product team, the solution that I build, it will definitely going to solve your problem. So give it a business perspective. How to give it a business perspective is you have to build a SWAT team. Now, you don't have to come up with all your guns and all, but when I say SWAT team, it's just a just an indicative, where the people who are going to drive this initiative till the end, the stakeholders who are focused on the problem, who are going to help you in all your requirements. So if you have a stakeholder who is not, I would say not 60 to 70% focusing on this problem, your AI project is probably going to fail. Rather, any project will fail. You need 50% and above stakeholder or stakeholders to be with you. So that's one of the things. Get into a meeting room, have that initial, this is not a kickoff meeting, but building a SWAT team and having a meeting with them and understanding couple of things. How to respond to initial request and query. Now it comes as a RFP and I have to give out a proposal. So the proposal that I have to give out is I need to understand the initial request. Then I have to go ahead and gather useful descriptions of the problems and the opportunities. So I'll talk about this, how to do it in a couple of slides. So it's a methodology that I'm going to talk about it, how to do it. and then understand, as I said, I think I have already covered who has a stake in solving this problem. Now, this stake is very important, because once you develop an AI solution, let me tell you, it can even fail because it doesn't meet the requirement or the IT requirement or security requirement of a organization. So you need to understand who is that person whom I am going to get an approval from. So that is a very important thing. Secondly, or lastly, what are those successes that I am looking for when I develop an AI ML solution? It's not accuracy. It probably is accuracy. It probably it's precision. It probably recall. It probably any other metric which is model specific, or it can be a business specific as well. What are those business KPIs that I'm going to solve by deploying this model? If you can answer that, if it gets validated, that is where your success lies in an AI project. Now, can it be applied for non-AI projects? This kind of approach, definitely, it can be. So how do I understand a business problem? So let's take a stand at it. There is a very, I think you guys will be aware of it, the 5 whys. Ask 5 whys. Take the business problem and ask why. So let me give it in Indrajit is presenting his slide. Why? For you to understand design thinking. Why? Because if you understand design thinking, you'll be able to deliver your project. Why do I need to deliver my project? In that way, you drill down and find the root cause. When you find the root cause, you know who are those users who is being affected by this root cause of the problem, and then you will be able to solve it. Now, when you apply these 5 whys, you will also get to know something very interesting thing, which is a problem, the problem statement itself. So when a client gives you a problem statement, it can be very well defined, or it can be ill-defined and at a wicked problem. When I say wicked problem, in the sense, give you an example that, I just want to understand the market and prepare a slide of my own and present it to my organization. I have no intention of giving a project to a vendor. It happened to me in 2010 that somebody just came up with that, hey, I am X and Y, I'm a head of this organization, I want to give a project to you, this is my problem statement. What happened after that is nothing. He just took the slide and that's all. So that's a learning, that's called a very wicked problem. Does it happen? Very often, very often. That's the real I would say challenges in an industry, that you never know who has what intention when they come up with these problem. So that's one of the wicked problem. Let's forget about it. Let's define a ill-defined problem or a well-defined problem. Basically, these two problems you will get, ill-defined and a well-defined. By answering your 5 whys, to a sort, you will be able to understand or clarify the problems. And if you have any ambiguity, you can go back to the 5 whys, write down the question, write down your assumption and write down what are your questions, shoot a mail back to the client or the customer who has come up with the problem statement to define it better. Okay, so let me move on. So there is a strategy blueprint. So let's say I have a well-defined problem right now. What I need to understand are the challenges, what are the aspirations, what are the focus area, what are the guiding principles, what are the activities, what are the outcome. Now, this is a very important piece of information which I would recommend to type it, take a printout, stick it on every person's board who is involved in the project. They should not deviate from the problem and the outcome that we have initially defined in the project. Now, this is something which is similar to the Scrum or Agile methodologies, because these things are all methodologies, so they are probably similar, but these are very important, because every time when you're doing your code and when you're checking out the code of let's say an AI algorithm, you should look up and onto your board, and you should see what is the challenge and what is the outcome and what are the guiding principle activities you need to do. This should be visible all the time. Like, you know, when you get up and come to office, you should be able to visualize this strategy blueprint. Then when your team will be engaged, see, I'm talking most from handling a team perspective at this point of time, but individually also you can always stick to I would say you can always have this stick on your board, and you can always fall back and refer to it, because it's a very effective way of, you know, sticking to the problem. And so once you go ahead and see something over and over and over again, you get to know that's the truth. So this is the truth when you are in a project, when you're delivering an AI project or probably a non-AI project also. Now, what is the next thing that you can do? The next thing is this journey map. This is very important. Let me give you an example. Let's say I am a patient, especially it's a real-time example. I took my mother to one of the biggest, gastro, gastroenterology, what do you call, hospitals, and what I realized is a huge wait time. So now, as and when I entered, I become a persona. That I am a user, I become a persona. I interact with, let's say, I interact with a receptionist, that's another persona. And then every interaction, what do you see, 1, 2, 3 till 9, these are every interaction. And after every interaction, I get an experience and I do some kind of action. Okay, so in order, we have to understand this in order to understand the business problem. Once we understand this entire journey map and we have it somewhere, we go ahead, we will be able to develop a better solution, understand a better problem. Okay, now there are, as you say, every phase, there are 4 phases over here. And what else we need to understand? We need to understand what are the opportunities here to enhance user experience, or what are the opportunities here to go ahead and can I develop something which actually solves the business problem at stage 1 itself? Can I develop that kind of a model? Or can I give a visualization, just a visualization, and will that solve the customer problem? Falling back that all problems are not AI problems. So you think about in that way. Can I give some small problem which, or some small resolution to a problem in the phase 1 itself, where the I do not have to go till phase 4 to go ahead and give a solution? Or can I give a stage by stage solution in every phase? And so if that way you identify the opportunities and note it down, you come up also, what do you note it down is the goal and the expectation from your previous slides that I showed, and the scenarios that might happen. Now, can this be applied in let's say in a project which is like when I'm developing an algorithm? Can I be a persona of my that I am developing a use case, and can I be a persona and see that where am I interacting with whom, like how am I getting the data, how am I interacting and delivering day-to-day activities? Yes, that can also be done using this. Your modeling phases can also be put into a journey map, and then you will understand your modeling life cycle better. and your AI life cycle where you are a user. Now you are becoming a user. So that also can be done. However, the main idea is to go ahead and understand the business problem and provide a solution. Now, I have spoken all about it, but how can I do it when I do not have an actual user? So many things you have told me, but how can I do it when I do not have an actual user? Is here you need to involve domain experts. Now, these domain experts will help us to identify the personas. The previous slide which you saw, persona, these domain experts will help you to identify persona and build the journey maps, because this domain expert knows all the touch points. And and this is one of the reason why your AI project might succeed versus my AI project, where I do not have a domain expert from a financial, from healthcare, from automotive, from building technologies, anything. You need a domain expert, must have. Okay, so once you're done with it, what you need to do a retro. What is this retro? Is what things we need to continue with. You need not go ahead and do everything that is there in a book that you have learned or that you have been practicing for this business problem at hand. Probably you need to stick to few things, and those things will it continue, and things which are relevant, and things probably you want to try out. Let's say what all algorithms you want to try out, what all data you need to try out. So that kind of board, quickly retrospective board that you put it. And finally you give a design brief. This is important. This is another thing that you need to stick onto your boards, and you keep referring to it, like why, who, what, with what, who else, how much, when, and how. This is all about it. It's the project in a paper. So put down the problem statement in or the problem in a structured way. So this will help you. So now let me go back to this. What did I cover so far? It's a quick design thinking approach for AI. I told you how to strategize by SWAT team, and how to go ahead and evaluate the problem statement. The need, I told you already. And now comes the response piece. So this response, when I do a response, it is very important to go ahead and understand whom I am, what response I should be, doing. Now, what is this response? The response in an AI world, is make, buy, or reuse. It can be used for software development as well. However, this is very important. I have used an algorithm for my client X, or I am a product company. One of my financial divisions have used an algorithm to measure X. Can I reuse that algorithm rather than building from scratch? Or I'm a product company. Can I go ahead and involve a vendor because I do not have the resources to go ahead and start an AI project? In order to do that, what you need to do is you need to wear these 6 hats. This is very important. These are 6 thinking hats. Okay, so what are the 6 thinking hats? Let's go one by one. You first examine the data related to what problem. So now let's say this is a very important thing. The reason is to develop any kind of AI ML solution. I'll give you an example. I think it was in my Accenture days. We were developing a drone solution, and the question that was asked to me is, okay, can you give a solution? I gave the solution. At the end, I asked, now tell me, do you have data? So everybody started looking at each other, and this was a very This was from the client. I mean, this was a very established client. They're like, data? What kind of data? See, this is called understanding or literacy of a data science or ML and AI projects. There are various companies who would want to leverage AI ML, but not everybody is, or rather, not everybody has that literacy. Okay, not everybody has an understanding how a data science project even starts. They have a problem statement, they will just shoot at you. So that using the white hat, you actually understand and ask the question, do we have the data? If we do not have the data, okay, so you need not worry. If you are, let's say not, you can still go ahead and develop a model. How? Using simulations. So this is where we use a lot in basically for manufacturing. We simulate an environment. Can it be utilized for non-manufacturing? Yes, you can also simulate, but will it be equivalent to a model which was developed on a data? No, it will not. So that's a FYI information. You can still, so in probably in the interview, this question is very often they ask like synthetic data. This is a simulation data. There are 3 ways to build a model: one from real data, synthetic data, simulation data. So that not many people will talk about it, but yes, it can be done. So that's white hat. That will help you. And then as you are in a team, somebody else needs to wear the red hat. So they have to ask you what is that everybody's instinct tells them about this project. Okay, then somebody has to wear a black hat and say that, what are the assumptions, what are the risks that we are facing, basically the project manager hat. And again, somebody has to wear a yellow hat, consider the ups and downs, opportunity and benefit, which actually this slide will give you. Opportunity, goals, expectations, this slide will tell you. Green hat is very important. That's where you come up with creative ideas. A solution can be solved just by using probably a linear regression model, but can I develop something which is out of the box? Can I be creative? There where your patents, your papers will come up. This green hat has to be worn during the response decision, when you're making this response decision. And finally, you synthesize and collectively decide what is the next step. That's the blue hat. Now this hats keeps going from one person to another. It's kind of a brainstorming session, you can say, and it goes from one person to another, so that people can wear and bring up their different perspective. See, AI ML or data science is not for one person, it's for a group. So when you probably due to business constraint and budget constraint, we tend to give data engineering problem to a data scientist. We want the data scientist to develop Flask API and deploy on a Kubernetes, and then do the production deployment. However, that will create a lot of problems. That's why everybody has their own roles. So it's a team effort, and you get everybody in. The SWAT team need to go ahead and use different types of hats and make this decision: make, buy, or reuse for your response. Now, let's say I wear the hats and perform a make decision. What is the end goal of this wearing the hats? You need to diverge, and then you need to converge. What do you need to divert? Collect everybody's perspective, and then you need to converge, make the choice, or have an outcome after every iteration of this hat wearing session. Now, once let's say we are going ahead and making a solution. I'm not buying or reusing. Let's say I'm making a solution. Two things very important here. What are we making? So when I say what are we making, is it what are we going to deliver today? What are we going to deliver tomorrow? And what are we going to deliver in future? And how we are making it? Is it an agile way or is it a waterfall way? This has to come, this thing has to be understood and brainstormed out. This is one of the very important things that needs to be done in the response phase of the design thinking for AI. Now, I pointed out that there are three things which comes into play when it comes to make. Now, one is a proof of concept, prototype, and MVP. These three are not the same thing. So when do you build a proof of concept? Here I want people to interact, or the participants to interact a little, because it will help you to understand. I will take you through quickly on proof of concept. So when you say proof of concept, it's a feasibility. So it's a technology feasibility. Most of the time you will be building a proof of concept, and because it needs very less budget and it is apt, that's one of the cost effectiveness of a proof of concept. And it also identifies you say operational feasibility and the concept. Let's say you are building a ML model for a particular problem, so is it feasible in the customer environment that the customer you are working with? So that kind of objective it comes up with. And it needs some kind of a technical expertise. That's why I say you need a SWAT team and you need to build this kind of POCs. Rather, all of them needs a technical expertise. Let's say, is there a user interaction or a user satisfaction over here? It does not have much of a user interaction when you are building up a proof of concept. Prototype is when your contract has been signed, you have been asked to build a prototype, or you have been asked to reuse a prototype which has already been built. So that's where you go ahead and differentiate. So let me give you two quick things as well. Is there a revenue generated out of this proof of concept? There is no revenue. You cannot go ahead and sell this proof of concept and say, hey, this is your ML model. No, it cannot be done. Is there a risks here? The risks are mostly unknown. However, once you run it through a design thinking process, you mitigate those risks. So now you see how your prototype feasibility and design think are related. You just simply do a prototype, there will be a lot of risks that are unknown, lot of uncertainties which are unknown, and it is as I said, it's not for client use. It just say it, yes, it works. When it's a prototype, then it's like this is how we show that how we build it. This is how usually will be built. Can it be used for future use? See, mostly prototypes are built for UI UX validation, like the interaction between your UI and your model that you have, the AI model that you have developed. Then when you build a prototype and see the integration, the integration is working or not. Why? Because if around 30% of the project fails because they are unable to integrate either with the existing system or with the current production system. So this prototype and proof of concepts, they are different. However, one comes usually before the before the contract has been signed, and one comes after the contract has been signed. And prototype, once the contract has been signed, is lot of client will ask for a prototype. This is the real world scenario. So let me ask you guys, so that you don't fall asleep with too much of jargon, I'll give you 4 questions. Let me know, is it for a prototype or is it for a POC? So question one, do check if an idea technically will work. What do I do? Do I need to build a POC for that or do I need to build a prototype? Anybody can take it. There's no right or wrong. You all are in a learning phase. So
POC.
Yes, that's correct. It's a POC. Another question is, I have a limited budget and time for the project. What do I build? A prototype or a POC? Fantastic. Now, let me ask you another question. Let's say I need to understand the market perception and improve my product based on something. So, something in the sense, is it what? A prototype, a POC, or a MVP? MVP. Fantastic. I think you guys are very good at this, and so I will move on. I need not ask any questions. Okay, so now I have done my proof of concept. Let's go ahead and run into an ML model. Let's understand how the most interesting part where most of the magic happens is over here. Understanding, evaluating the metric. What it will give you is it will help you in a way, this chart, where your project does not fail. Understanding, evaluating the metric 10% of the time, you will be doing this. Evaluation metric, I think Krishna was telling this, is very important to identify it in the design thinking phase. Very important thing is to go ahead and do a literature survey. See what all concept has been already built. Project managers, probably we always refer to an old project and see how that project has been built. Similarly, if you are in a research project which is iterative, you probably want to review the literature. The cross validation, where the trade-off between overfitting and underfitting takes place. What all cross validation strategies I need to build. Now I'm talking a little bit on actual ML life cycle, not from a design thinking, but it is a part of a design thinking for AI. So that is where I need to figure out. I need to have an understanding what kind of EDA, what kind of feature. Is it a neural network? Is it reinforcement learning, or is it a supervised, unsupervised? What am I building, and is it automated feature engineering I need to do? I need to use automated ML model. What do I need to do? 20% of the time is modeling. Okay, you go ahead and start do the modeling part, and then ensembling. So now you always, so there is a technical thing over here. When we talk about a point estimate, what is the point estimate? You go back to statistics 101, which is a point estimate is a point, classifying a point or finding the sum of square of a point, RMSE of a point estimate versus a range. There where you have to understand, do I an ensemble, and when I do an ensemble, I get probably a range, or I get probably a Bayesian way of doing AI ML what. And if I go ahead and do ensemble, which is recommended, because point estimates usually tend to go wrong, and that's a reason why your ML model might fail. Always it's recommended that you take a decision based on small 1 or 2 models, because it approximates a Bayesian way of modeling. What is a Bayesian way of modeling? Instead of giving you a point estimate, a Bayesian way of modeling will give you a distribution. In a distribution of your weights and biases, when you build a neural network, it is nothing but your distribution of weights and biases, which you freeze it and then you pass your model through. So this ensembling is a way of approximating a Bayesian network, which will help you a better, I would say, mitigate uncertainties, a better way of modeling. So these things you have to understand while developing a proof of concept, as well as a prototype. It's not only for a proof of concept, mostly for proof of concept, but also for a prototype that you have for design thinking in during a design thinking for an AI class, or I would say session. So I have spoken a lot. I will give you, I think I have 2 more minutes. Just think about this problem. Okay, so I'll read out the problem. You probably take this problem back home and try to build a solution. Okay, and apply design thinking approach and come up with a solution or a suggestion to your client. Because see, when you, let me give you this, I think you will learn about AI consulting in your couple of next sessions from on your MBA course. It's very important that you give your perspective as a consultant. So let's say a bike brand or a bike selling company. When I say bike, it's cycle. For Indian context, it's a cycle, and have shipped many bikes. And they usually notice that the packaging board gets damaged during transportation. They did a lot of things. What are the lot of things? They went ahead and changed to new delivery partner. They have made a robust cardboard box. They even put warnings, handle with care, fragile, and all this, but this did not solve their problem. So what you need to do is think as a team. Now, you need not do it alone. You think as a team, apply all what I have told about design thinking, apply that perspective, and come up this solution. A solution, and let's say if the client already has image data, numeric data from all the shipments, as well as categorical target variable, which is say scratched, broken, or good. These are the three target variables that you need is there. I would want you to go ahead and think about it. Use the design thinking approach. Tips: use a simple approach and a solution. The solution has been sent to Dr. Shrinu, and she will tell you what the solution is, probably after an internal session that you guys have. So I will stop at this, and that's all I had from design thinking, because if I change the next slide, you will see the solution. So I do not want you to see the solution. I will stop at it. And thank you everyone for patiently listening and interacting with me. Over to you, Dr. Shi.